I found the birthday card in my dead mother's desk drawer, and that's when I knew my entire family had been lying to me for 3 years. Not just lying, conspiring. The card was for my granddaughter's 10th birthday. But here's the thing, I didn't know I had a 10-year-old granddaughter. I didn't know I had any grandchildren. My daughter Emma told me 3 years ago she wasn't ready for kids. My son David said he and his wife were focusing on their careers. But this card was in my mother's handwriting, to my darling Grace on her 10th birthday. The date was 2 months ago, and inside was a photo. My mother, my daughter, my son, and 4 children I'd never seen before, all wearing party hats around a table I recognized immediately. My mother's dining room table, the one I'd eaten Sunday dinner at alone with her every week for 3 years while she told me she hadn't heard from Emma or David either. My hand started shaking so badly, I dropped the card. I was at my mother's house to clean out her belongings. She'd died 6 weeks earlier from a stroke, and I'd planned her entire funeral by myself because Emma said she was on a work trip and David was out of the country. 50 people came to that funeral. Family, friends. My mother's church group. Her book club. Not one of them mentioned my grandchildren. How does an entire community hide 4 children from you? I tore through that desk like a woman possessed. There had to be more. There had to be an explanation that didn't mean what I thought it meant, that my whole family had systematically erased me while pretending I still mattered. That's when I found the second drawer. The locked one. I used a letter opener to pry it open, and inside was a file folder with my name on it. My full name, in my mother's careful handwriting, Elizabeth Marie Foster. Do not open until after my death. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All from Emma and David. All addressed to my mother. All dated within the last 3 years. I grabbed the first one, from Emma, dated 3 years and 2 months ago. Mom, I can't keep doing this. She showed up at my apartment again last night, broke the lock, and I had to hide in the bedroom with Grace. She kept screaming that I was poisoning her granddaughter with modern nonsense. Mom, Grace is terrified of her. David's kids won't even say her name anymore. We've decided we're going dark, changing our numbers, moving. We can't keep sacrificing our children's safety for her feelings. I stopped breathing. David's letter, same date. Grandma, I need you to understand. Last week, Mom grabbed my son by the throat during Thanksgiving dinner because he spilled juice on her dress. She lifted him off the ground. He's 7 years old, and now he flinches when anyone raises their voice. I'm done. Emma's done. We're disappearing, and we need you to help us. She can't know where we are. The floor tilted under me. This wasn't possible. I would never. I couldn't have. But I didn't remember Thanksgiving dinner 3 years ago. I didn't remember it at all. I sat on the floor of my dead mother's office, surrounded by letters that described a version of me I didn't recognize. A violent, paranoid, dangerous woman who terrorized her own grandchildren, who showed up at their schools, who broke into their homes, who sent them to therapy, and the medical records, God, the medical records, psychiatric evaluations, court documents, a diagnosis that made my stomach drop, early onset dementia with episodic psychosis and violent behavioral disturbances. Medication logs showing I'd been prescribed antipsychotics 8 years ago. Treatment plans I didn't remember. Hospital admissions I had no recollection of. And photographs. Dozens of photographs that I didn't remember anyone taking. In one, I'm screaming at a little girl who's pressed against a wall, crying. Emma's in the background, her face a mask of exhausted horror. In another, I'm being removed from what looks like a school building by 2 police officers while a small boy watches from a classroom window, his face pressed against the glass. That boy looked exactly like David. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened my text messages with Emma. Scrolled up through 3 years of one-sided conversations. Messages from me, dozens of them, all unanswered. Just checking in, sweetie. Miss you. Would love to hear your voice. Thinking about you on your birthday. All sent to a number that, I suddenly realized, had never shown as delivered. They'd all just said sent. She'd blocked me. They'd all blocked me. I called David's number. Disconnected. Emma's number. Disconnected. I searched for David online and found him immediately. He hadn't even changed his name. He was living 2 towns over. 2 towns. I'd been that close to him for 3 years while he pretended to be across the country. His Facebook page was public. I don't know if that was carelessness or cruelty, but I scrolled through it with tears streaming down my face. Birthday parties I'd never been invited to. First days of school. Lost teeth. Halloween costumes. Christmas mornings. An entire 3 years of family life, documented in full color, happening 20 miles away while I sat alone in my house wondering why my children had abandoned me. But they hadn't abandoned me. They'd escaped me. The truth came in pieces over the next few hours as I read through every document in that drawer. I had early onset dementia. It started almost 10 years ago, subtle at first, just memory lapses and mood swings, everyone attributed to stress. But it progressed quickly, and it came with violent episodes I couldn't control and didn't remember afterward. During lucid periods, which could last weeks or even months, I'd convinced myself nothing was wrong. Refused medication. Accused my family of gaslighting me. Made promises I couldn't keep because I literally couldn't remember breaking them. My mother had documented everything in a journal she'd kept for 7 years. I read entries that shattered me. Elizabeth doesn't remember throwing Grace down the stairs last week. She asked me today why Emma won't return her calls, and she genuinely didn't know. The doctors say the episodes are getting worse, and the memory loss is mercy. She doesn't have to carry the guilt of what she's done. But Emma and David have to carry it. And so do I. I lied to Elizabeth again today. Told her I haven't heard from the kids. The truth is they had dinner here last night with all 4 grandchildren. Elizabeth called during dessert, and I stepped outside to take it, pretended I was alone. I'm complicit in this deception, but what choice do I have? The restraining orders say she can't contact them. The medical directive says she needs supervision. And she trusts me, so I'm the one who has to betray her over and over to keep everyone safe. Restraining orders. I found them at the bottom of the file. Legal documents, court-stamped, absolutely real. David had filed for an emergency protective order 5 years ago barring me from contact with his children after I'd locked his daughter in a closet for 2 hours as punishment. I didn't remember that. Emma had filed one 3 years ago when she was pregnant, citing a pattern of escalating violence and genuine fear for my unborn child's safety. And I had violated them. Multiple times. The police reports were all there, showing up at schools, at birthday parties, at their homes. Each time, I'd seemed confused, disoriented, insisting I had every right to see my grandchildren while having no memory of why I legally didn't. There was even a USB drive taped inside the folder. I plugged it into my laptop with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Security camera footage from David's house, dated 18 months ago. I watched myself use a key I must have stolen to let myself in through the back door at 2 a.m. Watched myself creep upstairs and stand over a sleeping child for 11 minutes, just standing there, breathing, staring. Until David appeared in the doorway, and the version of me on that screen turned around with an expression of pure rage. The audio was off, but I could read my own lips. They're my grandchildren. You can't keep them from me. I made you. David had to physically drag me out of his house, while his wife called the police. I didn't remember any of it. Not 1 second. My mother's final letter was dated 3 days before she died. My dearest Elizabeth, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you found the truth I couldn't bear to tell you while I was alive.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You'll be angry. You'll feel betrayed. But please understand, everyone was trying to protect you from a truth you couldn't process. The dementia makes you forget the episodes. You'd wake up from them confused about why your children were afraid of you, why the police were involved, why you had bruises and didn't remember getting them. Emma and David made the impossible choice to cut you off completely because half measures didn't work. You'd have good months, and they'd let their guard down, and then you'd have an episode and traumatize the children all over again. They couldn't keep doing it. I agreed to be the buffer, to take your calls, to let you believe you still had family, to give you some dignity in your confusion. It was a kindness and a cruelty, and I'll never know if I made the right choice. The visiting nurse who brings your medication? I arranged that. The trust fund covering your expenses? I set that up. The assisted living facility that's been reserved for you when you can no longer live alone? I've paid for 5 years in advance. You're not abandoned, my darling girl. You're loved so much that we all agreed to break our own hearts to keep you safe from yourself. I hope you can forgive us. I hope you can forgive yourself. But most of all, I hope you make the same choice Emma and David made. Put the children first, even when it destroys you. With all my love.
Mom.
That was 9 months ago. I'm writing this from the assisted living facility my mother arranged. I checked myself involuntarily the week after I found those files because she was right. I couldn't trust myself. The episodes were getting worse. The memory gaps were widening. I spent my first month here reading through everything again and again, trying to reconcile the grandmother I thought I was with the monster I'd actually become. Trying to remember moments that my brain had mercifully erased. Some memories did come back. Fragments. The feeling of rage, so pure it felt justified. A little girl crying. Emma's voice shaking, saying, "Please, Mom, you're scaring her." They're not full memories, just flashes. But they're enough to know the documents don't lie. I wrote letters to Emma and David, but I never sent them. What could I possibly say? Sorry, I terrorized your children for years while I couldn't even remember doing it. Some things are too big for apologies. Instead, I set up college funds for all 4 grandchildren. Anonymous trusts they won't be able to trace back to me until they're adults. It's the only gift I can give them, financial security, without the trauma of my presence. Last week was Grace's 11th birthday. I know because I found her school's Facebook page. She's beautiful. She looks just like Emma did at that age, before I became the villain in her story. The staff here are kind. They manage my medications, monitor my behavior, make sure I can't hurt anyone, including myself. On good days, I paint. On bad days, I don't remember my own name. But I always remember why I'm here. I have a copy of that photograph on my wall. The one from my mother's desk, with all 4 grandchildren smiling at a birthday party I was never invited to. It's the only picture I have of them, and it's the only one I deserve. Sometimes I wonder if Emma and David know I found out. If they've been waiting for me to show up, to violate the restraining orders one more time, to force them to take legal action against a sick old woman who can't help herself.
But I won't do that to them.
This disease took my memory, my stability, my relationship with my children, but it won't take my last shred of decency. They said they'd call tomorrow. That was 1,095 days ago. But they weren't lying. They were protecting their babies from their own grandmother, and that's the most loving thing any parent can do. If you're listening to this and you've been cut off from your family, consider this. Maybe there's a reason you don't remember. Maybe the people you think abandoned you actually loved you enough to save their children from you. Maybe your truth is buried because your mind couldn't survive carrying it. I spent 3 years feeling abandoned. 9 months knowing I deserved it. The second is harder, but it's honest. And sometimes love looks like letting go, especially when you don't want to. I haven't seen my grandchildren in person. I never will. But they're safe. They're thriving. They're free from the grandmother who loved them in the worst possible way. That's not abandonment. That's mercy. More stories are waiting under the telling tree. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for the next one.